Hello and welcome to the session on intellectual property rights. Intellectual property right is one of the defining issues of the Internet era. The Internet has made it easy to access digital media and illegally copy it. Intellectual property law, in particular copyright law, is going to play a big part in the future of the Internet. The Internet in turn is the future of journalism. Hence, for journalists who prepare themselves for digital era need to understand the rules that will shape their profession. In short, every journalist is creating and using copyrighted works, making it important to have at least a basic understanding of the law. This lesson will discuss intellectual property, including protections through copyrights, trademarks and patents. Intellectual property. Who should have ownership rights and control over digitalized information? Who should be able to determine the availability and access to that information? Those are some of the questions concerning intellectual property often debated. The ease of accessing information through the Internet has caused serious concern about protecting intellectual property, including music, movies, digital books, software and video games. Theft of intellectual property has been an ongoing problem. Software piracy is the illegal copying of copyrighted software. It has become a global problem. Piracy of music, movies and books is also a growing problem. Millions of people copy songs, digital books or movies onto their computer or their iPod illegally. They download the media they want for free from a peer-to-peer file sharing website like BitTorrent. This process denies the original artist, authors or entrepreneurs the legitimate compensation they deserve for their work. So, what is intellectual property right? Intellectual property refers to the intangible or non-physical right that is the result of original thought, such as musical, literary or artistic works. Owners of intellectual property are granted exclusive rights through copyrights, trademarks and patents. An exclusive right is a right reserved solely by a particular person or group. Intellectual property rights are like any other property rights. They allow the creator or owner of a patent, trademark or copyright to benefit from his or her own work or investment. These rights are outlined in Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which sets forth the right to benefit from the protection of moral and material interest resulting from authorship of any scientific, literary or artistic production. The importance of intellectual property was first recognized in the Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property in 1883 and the Berne Convention for the Protection of Literary and Artistic Works in 1886. Both treaties are administered by the World Intellectual Property Organization, that is WIPO. However, the scope and definition of intellectual property is constantly evolving with the inclusion of newer forms under the gambit of intellectual property. With the establishment of the World Trade Organization, that is WTO, the importance and role of the intellectual property protection has been crystallized in the trade-related intellectual property systems, which is known as TRIPS agreement. It was negotiated at the end of the Uruguay round of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, that is GATT, G-A-T-T, treaty in 1994. The TRIPS agreement encompasses in principle all forms of intellectual property and aims at harmonizing and strengthening standards of protection and providing for effective enforcement at both national and international levels. Over the past 15 years, intellectual property rights have grown to a stature from where it plays a major role in the development of global economy. In 1990s, many countries unilaterally strengthened their laws and regulations in this area, and many others were poised to do likewise. With the establishment of WTO and India being signatory to the agreement on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, that is TRIPS, several new legislations were passed for the protection of intellectual property rights to meet the international obligations. These included trademarks, called the Trademark Act of 1999, Designs Act of 1911 was replaced by the Designs Act 2000, the Copyright Act 1957 amended a number of times. The latest is called Copyright Amendment Act of 2012, and the latest amendments made to the Patents Act of 1970 in 2005. Besides, new legislations on geographical indications and plant varieties were also enacted. These are called Geographical Indications of Goods, Registration and Protection Act 1999 and Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act 2001 respectively. IP is divided into two categories for ease of understanding. First, industrial property, and second, copyright. Industrial property includes inventions, that is patents, trademarks, industrial designs and geographic indications of source, while copyright includes literary and artistic works such as novels, poems and plays, films, musical works, artistic works such as drawings, paintings, photographs and sculptures and architectural designs. Rights related to copyright include those of performing artists in their performances, producers of phonograms in their recordings and broadcasters in their radio and television programs. Intellectual property shall include the right relating to literary, artistic and scientific works. Secondly, performance of performing artist. Thirdly, inventions in all fields of human endeavor. Fourth, scientific discoveries. Fifth, industrial designs. Sixth, trademarks, service marks, etc. And finally, protection against unfair competition. What is a property then? Property designates those things that are commonly recognized as being the possessions of an individual or a group. A right of ownership is associated with property that establishes the good as being one's own thing in relation to other individuals or groups, assuring the owner the right to dispense with the property in a manner he or she deems fit, whether to use or not use, exclude others from using, or to transfer ownership. Properties are of two types, tangible property and intangible property. That is, one that is physically present and the other which is not in any physical form. Building, land, house, cash, jewelry are few examples of tangible properties which can be seen and felt physically. On the other hand, there is a kind of valuable property that cannot be felt physically as it does not have a physical form. Intellectual property is one of the forms of intangible property which commands a material value which can also be higher than the value of a tangible asset or property.